You're 9 months pregnant. No hospital for 200,000 years. No painkillers, no doctors. Just you, your tribe, and the most dangerous moment of your life. What happened next is why half of human history is missing. Because for 300,000 years, women have been doing something that seems impossible. Giving birth without any of the tools we consider essential today. No sterile rooms, no medical intervention, no epidurals. And yet somehow, the human species survived. The question isn't just how they did it. The question is who helped them do it. Because here's what the archaeological record reveals. Women never did this alone. Not once in the entire history of our species. Birth was a community event, and the systems they built around it were more sophisticated than you'd think. Let me show you what actually happened when someone got pregnant 50,000 years ago. The moment a woman in a hunter-gatherer tribe realized she was pregnant, something shifted in the entire group's behavior. And researchers studying modern hunter-gatherer societies have documented exactly what that shift looked like. The pregnant woman didn't become isolated or sidelined. She became the center of an intricate support network that anthropologists call cooperative breeding. Other women in the tribe, especially older women who had already given birth, immediately began adjusting their roles. They took over more of her physical labor, brought her extra food, and started sharing knowledge that had been passed down for generations. This wasn't charity. This was survival strategy. Because human birth is uniquely dangerous compared to other primates. Our babies have massive heads relative to our pelvic openings, a consequence of walking upright and evolving large brains. The mortality rate for both mother and child was staggering. Estimates suggest that without any intervention, roughly 1 in 3 women died in childbirth throughout human history. So tribes developed something remarkable to combat this. A specialized role that predates agriculture, predates civilization, predates almost everything we consider modern. The role of the midwife. And we have proof this role is ancient. In 2014, researchers analyzing Neanderthal remains found evidence of skeletal injuries consistent with someone who spent years kneeling and supporting laboring women. These weren't just helpful bystanders, these were specialists. Women who had seen dozens of births, who knew techniques for turning breech babies, who understood which plants reduced bleeding and which decisions made delivery easier. They were the first medical professionals in human history. But here's what's fascinating about how they actually managed labor. When a woman went into labor, the tribe didn't panic. They had been preparing for weeks. A specific location had already been chosen, usually away from the main camp, but close enough for safety. Somewhere with soft ground, access to water, and natural shelter. Archaeological sites across Africa and Europe show evidence of these birthing areas, small clearings with unusual concentrations of tools and burned plant remains. The laboring woman was never left with just one person. Typically, 3 to 5 women surrounded her, each with a specific role. One midwife managed the actual delivery, checking dilation and position. Another supported the woman physically, letting her lean back or squat while holding her weight. A third prepared warm water, medicinal plants, and tools. Others kept a fire going and watched for predators, because labor could take hours or even days, and the sounds attracted attention. The woman almost never laid on her back. That's a modern hospital invention. Instead, she squatted, knelt, or stood, using gravity to help the baby descend. The midwife used her hands to feel the baby's position, guide the head, and prevent tearing. If something went wrong, if the baby was breech or the cord wrapped around its neck, these women had techniques. Archaeological evidence and modern hunter-gatherer studies show they knew how to reach inside and turn a baby, how to cut and tie umbilical cords with stone tools, how to apply pressure to stop hemorrhaging. These weren't guesses. This was refined knowledge passed from generation to generation. And when the baby finally emerged, the next critical phase began. The infant was immediately placed on the mother's chest, skin to skin, exactly as hospitals recommend today. But the ancient practice went further. The placenta was delivered and carefully examined, because experienced midwives knew a retained placenta could kill. The umbilical cord wasn't cut immediately. They waited for it to stop pulsing, allowing all the blood to transfer to the baby. Modern medicine rediscovered this as delayed cord clamping in the 1990s. Ancient midwives knew it 50,000 years ago. Then came the recovery period, and this is where the community structure becomes even more critical. The new mother didn't return to normal work for weeks, sometimes months. Other women in the tribe brought her food, helped her nurse, took care of her older children. This wasn't optional. This was embedded in the social contract. Because anthropologists studying the Hadza people in Tanzania and the Kung people in the Kalahari found that women who received this support had significantly higher survival rates both for themselves and their babies. The tribe also had protocols for when things went wrong. If a baby was born with severe deformities or wasn't breathing, the midwife made quick decisions. Some infants could be revived with techniques like clearing airways and stimulating breathing. Others couldn't. And in those cases, the tribe had mourning rituals. Burial sites from 100,000 years ago show infant remains buried with care and ceremony, proof that even failed births were treated with reverence. But here's the part that changes how you think about modern maternity care. These ancient systems had something most hospitals today have lost: continuous emotional support. A 2017 study published in the journal Birth analyzed the outcomes of over 15,000 births and found that women who had continuous support from another woman during labor had 25% shorter labors, were less likely to need interventions, and reported significantly higher satisfaction. The researchers noted this effect was strongest when the support person was experienced but not medically trained, exactly like ancient midwives. Modern hospitals, with all their technology and expertise, often isolate women during labor. They're attended by rotating staff who don't know them, in sterile rooms, often without family present. The ancient model was the opposite. Women were surrounded by people they trusted, in familiar places, supported by specialists who had known them their entire lives. And the outcomes, when birth went normally, were remarkably good. Studies of modern hunter-gatherer groups show that when labor progresses without complications, maternal and infant mortality rates are comparable to industrial nations. The high historical mortality rates came from complicated births, infections, and hemorrhaging, situations where modern medicine makes a massive difference. But for the vast majority of normal births, the ancient system worked. It worked because it was built on 300,000 years of accumulated knowledge, passed from woman to woman, refined through trial and error across thousands of generations. And that knowledge included things we're only now rediscovering scientifically. The use of certain plants to induce labor or reduce pain. Researchers have identified over 50 plant species used by indigenous cultures for childbirth that contain compounds with real pharmacological effects. The importance of movement and position during labor. Modern studies confirm that upright positions reduce labor time and pain. The critical role of emotional support, now called doula care in modern contexts, and proven to improve outcomes. Ancient humans figured all of this out without laboratories or clinical trials. They figured it out because birth happened constantly. And the tribes that developed better systems had more surviving children. Evolution didn't just shape our bodies for birth. It shaped our social structures around it. And here's the part that answers why half of human history is missing. Women's knowledge systems, including midwifery, were oral traditions. They weren't written down until civilizations developed writing. And even then they were rarely recorded because they were considered women's domain. The vast majority of human birth knowledge existed in the minds of midwives, passed through demonstration and apprenticeship. When colonization and industrialization disrupted indigenous cultures, much of that knowledge disappeared within a generation or two. We lost tens of thousands of years of refined expertise, but fragments remain. In 2019, anthropologists working with the Archaeology people in Central Africa documented birth practices that likely stretch back to our common ancestors. The Archaeology midwives still use techniques, positioning, plant medicines, and support structures that mirror archaeological evidence from sites 40,000 years old. They represent an unbroken chain of knowledge spanning the entire history of our species. So, when you're 9 months pregnant in a modern hospital, surrounded by monitors and medical staff, remember this. Your body is designed for a process that worked for 300,000 years without any of that technology. Your ancestors survived the most dangerous moment of their lives, not because they were tougher or different, but because they were never alone. They built communities that caught them when they were most vulnerable. And those communities created the first specialized knowledge systems in human history. The missing half isn't gone. It's in every culture that still honors the role of midwives. In every woman who supports another through labor. In every tradition that treats birth as a communal responsibility rather than a medical procedure. What happened next? After 200,000 years,